Hello and welcome to another episode of Fight on Montana, where we take a deep dive into Grizzlies athletics. I'd like to remind the listener to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Also, if you want to get a hold of us, we would love to hear from you. Go to our Instagram page, our Twitter, our Facebook page at Fight on Montana. We want to hear from you. I have my co-host, my game day repping, ready. First game day away from the game. I hope you're doing okay. My co-host, Angel Villanueva. How you doing, buddy?
Man, I've been up since 6 a.m., Adam. Let me tell you. Just ready. Let's
go. Stretching it out.
Yeah, stretching it out. Trying to get ready for the game, man. Mentally, physically, doing whatever they can, man. I'm just excited for this opportunity, dude. For the listeners out there, I've waited, 10 plus years for an opportunity like this,
Yeah.
I mean, thinking about that when I started football back in high school, as a freshman, I guess you can count flag football in 8th grade and 10th grade. I don't know if you count that necessarily, but even then before that, I knew nothing in the world of sports, Kind of a little fun fact about me when I was a child, there was like weight restrictions when it came to youth football. And so I was from where the area that I was from at least. And so I was always too heavy to actually be able to play. So I knew nothing about football. And my dad watched football casually, but he wasn't passionate about it. So it wasn't really until I got into high school, that's when I developed that relationship with it. And ever since, man, I've always wanted the opportunity to go to a game, watch a game, And so this is that time, man. It's that time to really enjoy it as an adult. So I'm excited for it, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, as a child, you couldn't get me away from sports. If it had a ball, a stick, I was there.
Mm-hmm.
Having brothers and stuff like that, we were always doing something, either playing a sport or getting in a fight because somebody did something, and we we went into fighting mode. So
so for me and my brothers, it was just shooting each other with paintball guns and BB guns. So
that too.
Yeah.
So hey, Angel, we are going to do a spring preview. This is our last one. We're going to go into defensive end, the defensive line situation, go into linebacker and safety, and then just kind of go over what we're expecting for this game today. And then we're ready to go do game day, man.
Oh yeah, let's do it, man. Let's do it.
So before we get into all that, we wanted to kind of address this injury news. There is chatter out there that Marcus Knight is hurt.
Mm-hmm.
There has been kind of Coach Houck has said that he is hurt, but there hasn't been really too much word on what that injury is, the severity of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to comment. I'm pretty sure all the Grizz fans out there that are in, trying to get information, they have heard what it is. But we're not going to comment on it. We wish him a speedy recovery. We wish him the best. But we're not going to say what's going on because we don't know. And so we wish him the best, a speedy recovery, and hopefully he heals up, man.
Yeah, prayers up to him, man. Yeah, speedy recovery. Just injuries as an athlete is so devastating, and it's one of the things that you can't really speak too much about it. When I was playing football, I didn't want to speak too much about it. One, because it gave the opposing team an idea of where I stood, especially as a starter. And two, it's kind of heartbreaking, to really tell that story over and over again that potentially, the trajectory of your athletic career could change, and that's how it kind of was for me. When I injured my back, just for those of you that don't know, I had to get back surgery. I got a hip surgery. And what ended up essentially happening, just a little quickly with my back, was there's discs in your back and there's muscle that kind of runs along your back that kind of holds all the discs together. Mm-hmm. And in that muscle wall, your nerves can run over them, through them, or under that muscle wall. And what ended up happening is that my disc penetrated through the muscle wall, essentially tearing my nerves. Because of that, I played that last football season with no feeling in my right leg for, maybe about 40% of the leg, kind of going down my shin all the way down my foot. I can't really feel too much.
And that was your senior year or your junior year?
That was my senior year. And so because of that, I mean, the players used to kind of poke fun at me and be like, "Hey, you're playing with a peg," you know. So
Yeah.
it was just kind of like a cool little thing. But I'm really proud of how I ended. But it's one of those things, like it changed the trajectory of my career, my athletic career, and just me as a young man immensely. And so injuries is a scary thing. It's a place where you don't necessarily know, and there's always that pressure. There's always that pressure. I remember as an athlete, it was always, you got to come back. You got to come back. And I knew I wasn't ready to come back simply because I was in so much pain, you know, especially because of the back. You know, I'm a heavy guy. I was a big guy. I played around 325, 330 kind of playing weight. And being able to carry that on your back and your spine is no easy task, you know? And so,
well, and just the mental health side of that too, and just with worrying about your job, your job or your spot like that, it's hard.
Oh yeah, man. It's a tough business to be in because there's always that pressure. And I'm just a kid. You're just a kid.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
still learning. You're still figuring it out. So it's one of those things. It's like speedy recovery to Marcus. And I really hope nothing seriously is wrong. I hope that he bounces back even stronger than ever. And I hope it's one of those injuries that doesn't prevent him from, having a successful, following year. So
yeah, definitely. So hey man, let's get into the spring depth chart here. Let's go to that defensive end side. What are we losing? I know that Milton Mamula transferred, I believe. I think we've lost Ryder Rice, and I'm gonna butcher this name, Vika Vatusi.
Vika.
Okay. See, I knew I was gonna mess it up.
No, yeah, we lost him, and then also Jesse Sims as well. He's out of the rotation. Jesse is a strong dude. Let me tell you that. Goodness gracious, for no reason. He's walking around that big for no reason, just cause. My goodness. So yeah, we're losing him, losing Vika, Rice, and then also who was that first one you said again? Milton.
Milton. Yeah.
Milton. For those of you who don't know, he's a legend. He's son of legendary. What's his father's name? I forgot. I'm right now.
No, I can't. Didn't he play for the Chargers?
Yeah. No, he played for the Eagles.
Eagles. There you go. So, yeah, and so those are the ones that we're losing. One of the areas that is pretty exciting. We have a Justin Belknap, a transfer from Arizona. He was coming in, I believe, with a linebacker position in Arizona. They moved him to defensive end. That's kind of exciting to see how he kind of transfers into a different spot on the defense, as well as just some of the other players that we have with that position. I'll kind of go over what we have. We have Alex Herbert, Joe Babros, Jacob McGorn, Braden Deming, Noah Cashmitter, RJ Nelson, and we have Corby Mann coming in this summer from Red Lodge. So I believe Noah Cashmitter is a gray shirt because I think he was either hurt last year or coming back from an injury. So I don't know if you knew him very well, but if you look at that defensive end spot, there's a lot of guys that maybe have had some playing experience and are really, really good. And I think that's and I don't know if you agree. I think the Grizz have been missing a defensive end, a pass threat. I think the last pass threat, that came from that defensive end spot was Tyrone Holmes that actually, had that great speed, that great attacking. Jesse Sims, awesome. He was a pass rusher. He played, I believe, defensive tackle.
Well, I don't think he was a pass rusher. I think he was just a big body, a strong body. And so that's where you get into that good point that you said. We kind of haven't had that finesse really quick off the edge. And so when Joe came in, Joe was actually my roommate for about a year and a half. So we had, when he moved in, I had a spot open up. I asked him to come live with me. He said yes. And because of that, we've developed a great friendship. But the guy can play for sure. He gets off the ball really well. He's, you look at his size and he's extremely strong too. Which throws it off. So when you combine those characteristics of speed and strength, man, coming off the edge, because he gets off the edge like no other. He gets up pretty well. And so I think he's going to have a breakout year, my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Just what I know him as a player, what I know him as a man. I think he's going to come out and really play. He's really committed himself. And every time I talk to him, he seems like he's having more and more fun with it. Obviously, transferring is tough for anybody. So I think in the beginning, it was a transitioning period for him. It was a learning curve for him. It was an adjustment role. Where does he fit in? What's the playing style like? Coming into a different defense, you don't necessarily know. So the fact that he came in, wanting to set himself apart, I think he's worked his way up to the point where he's going to have a breakout year. On top of matching Deming on the other side, Deming has always been consistent. Deming has always been a hard worker. He's always been wanting to go out there and put forth his best effort. So I think that's what's going to happen this year. I think they're both going to complement each other because they have different types of play when it comes to that defensive end position. And then when we come to the middle, obviously you have the rotation of those guys, the Eli Alford, he's always been in a rotation. He's had some he had the safety last year.
Yeah.
Against I forgot who, but man, or I guess a year and a half ago, but he had that chance to make that safety, and it was awesome for him, man. He's an awesome dude. Fun fact about Eli is like 290 pounds, 200 pounds, but he shreds down the mountain when he goes when he goes skiing. He's a really good skier.
Nice.
Which is surprising for that body size and that body rolling down the hill.
So yeah, like one of the guys that I'm really excited about. And before that, they came out with their depth chart for the defensive end, and they have Justin Belknap starting, and then sorry, I'm trying to find it here. Defensive end. Yeah. Justin Belknap is starter, and then Joe Babros on the other side, and then the guys behind them are Braden Deming, and then Jacob McGorn would finish out the other side as well.
I just want to say something about Jacob. Jacob, I think he's gonna be a player. He's gonna be a dog.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. I'm really excited about him because he only had 4 games last year because they redshirted him. But in those 4 games, I believe he had a couple pressures. I know he had a sack, I believe, in the Weber State game. He's a baller. I think that he's gonna really show out this year. And so I'm glad that they have some depth in that area too as well, and kind of develop that as well. So,
So fun fact about Jacob, I've played against some great players. I played against Tyrone Holmes. I played against Cape Killer. My coach at the linebacker position. I've rotated against some really, really premier players. But Jacob was somebody that I consistently never truly blocked when it came to the pass rush. I don't even know what it was. I don't know what he was doing. It would frustrate me to hell to try to figure out how the hell I'm going to block this guy on a pass rush, and I get a little nervous, kind of thinking about that situation just because, I would always get reamed afterwards. Like, what's going on with you? Why can't you block this guy? So for whatever reason, and you know what, I'm excited to kind of see where he takes it, man. So we'll see.
Do we need to set up some cone drills so that you can get that out of your system, man?
Yeah, I need to get it out of my system, man. It's been haunting me forever. Shout out Jacob, man. You're gonna have a big year. I can't wait to see what you put out.
Awesome. Yeah. The defensive line, going to the defensive line area, we have a lot of freshmen on that side of the ball. Henry Noose, a freshman, Journey Grimsrud, and then the other 4 are coming in this summer. Kellen Dietrich, Zach Evans, Ben McGorn, Sloan McPherson, and Dylan Smith are all coming in this summer. So with them being freshmen, do you think that they're going to be getting some playing time this fall? And what do you think about that?
I would hope so. You know what? I think a majority of those guys will redshirt like usual, but I think also at the same time, there are certain guys like Jacob, Jacob that just has a little bit more, kind of that football savvy mindset as far as having that ability to come in and play, and especially with the 4-game rule. You can play those 4 games and not lose a year of eligibility. I think they're going to take advantage of that as much as they can. If they see something that they like, they're going to use them. Whether they be an inside guy, whether it be a pass rusher on the edge, whether it be a hybrid on the outside, or maybe even a different position. If a guy knows how to play or can play or has the ability to play, they'll play them. So I think some of those guys will get playing time, but I think majority of them will just need to take that freshman year, that redshirt year. That's how it was for me. That's how it was for the majority of guys in my class. The only one I think that did not have the opportunity was Jeremy Calhoun, just because he was a great player coming in. He necessarily was ready to play, as opposed to a lot of us that needed that year of development, that needed a time to adjust, in all types of facets. So I think some of those guys will, but I don't think all of them will. So we got a comment from Michael right here.
Michael Kemper.
Let's read that out. He says, do you think the recent lack of edge rusher isn't so much the ability of the players, but more of the package or coaching scheme, like more of a containing role versus a rushing role? I really don't know. Just asking. That's a great question, Michael. Thank you for commenting. That really is interesting. I think it plays a little bit of both. Obviously the coaches want to make sure that they put in a great package in order to make sure that we're successful. But a lot of times it's just getting your job done. Everybody has a single role that they need to be responsible for. And sometimes, depending on certain years, it's not as strong. And we need to maybe have, kind of a corner, kind of keep an eye out on the edge or kind of help contain the edge. And so there's different packages that go into play, but obviously these coaches are top tier. They know what they're doing. They've been in this profession for years after years. So it's a little bit of a combination of both. So that's where it's like, we know we have that consistent coaching. We have a really solid defense. I think once I played in 2019, our defense was, do you remember what it was? I think it was ranked like top 2, right under Weber State.
It was. Well, and it was probably leading the Big Sky for a lot of areas. I know they were right under Weber State. They had the rushing yards. It was a little over, not much over 100 yards per game.
Yeah.
The touchdowns was where it was really strong, as they held the opponent under, I believe it was like 8 or 10 touchdowns that year. So
and if you think about it, 2019 wasn't the best year to be a defensive lineman. They had a really strong year as far as, basically shutting people out when they came to scoring touchdowns. But at the same time, as far as how many sacks the actual defensive line got, you look at it wasn't a whole lot, And so that kind of plays into a role of the package scheme. That kind of plays into a role of like, okay, individual players. So I think the play is going to be elevated this year. I think we have a lot more athletic guys that are willing and able to fit that position right now.
Well, it'll be interesting to kind of go back, and I haven't done that, and I will, Michael, I will look into this question, because like the last, true, like legit rusher on the end would be Tyrone Holmes. What was his last year? Was his last year 14 or 15?
15. Yeah.
So
15.
That wasn't the Hauk era, because he was still gone. So it would be kind of interesting to see. I do not think they played a 3-3-5, because that's basically what they're playing now, is that 3-3-5.
Yeah.
To see compared to when the last time, Hauk was here, they weren't playing that 3-3-5 either. To kind of like compare someone or a team that is playing that 3-3-5, and to see the difference between the Grizz and that team, to see if those numbers are the same, to see if it is the scheme, and to see maybe if it's just the how they're formed, if that's why we're not getting enough. It's not necessarily we're not getting enough pressure, because we are. If we were not getting enough pressure, we'd be getting beat all the time, because the QB would be getting enough time and just sitting back there and dialing it up. So that's not the case at all. They are getting pressure. They're just not getting the sacks. But it would be interesting to kind of dive into that a little bit deeper, to see if they are, getting to the quarterback. So
that's another thing too. Playing a 3-man front is a lot easier than playing against 4 or 5. Let me just tell you that. I know we do have a lot of blitz packages. There's always somebody coming to, which makes it hard as an offensive line. It's hard to block 4 down man. But at the same time, if you have one guy that has 5 yards on you, that's just coming full blow, especially like a guy like Jace Lewis, that could potentially be a scary thing, because he throws his whole body into that, man. He doesn't care. He's, kind of animalistic when it comes to how he wants to approach and get to the quarterback. And so there's different things that play into it. So it's just really kind of figuring out where we all fit in. It's a little bit of a combination of everything. It's a package that we run. It's a type of blitz that we have. Is it meant primarily for the linebacker to get there? There's a method to all the madness to it. So it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get into that defensive tackle position. Like we mentioned, we're losing Jesse Sims. That role that he played, I believe also Cole Rosling is not there as well.
Yeah.
And I think he transferred, didn't he?
Yeah.
To like Tech.
He's done. And I'm sure me and Cole were in a similar boat. I actually injured myself, but he was on the verge of injuring himself with his back. He was having, kind of big bag issues initially. I know he's better now, but initially he was having some back issues. And I know that played a role into, I would like to think that played a role into him kind of reconsidering like, hey, this could potentially hurt me for a long time. So I think he made the right move, and sometimes I kind of sit here and think like, did I make the right move in staying or going, but I 100% made the right move. I'm glad about it, so it was just one of those things. It's unfortunate, but he was going through some injuries as well. But prayers to him, man. I hope he's doing well. I haven't heard from him in a little while. So, yeah.
Awesome. So, yeah, we are losing Jesse Sims on that side of the ball. Who fills that void? Jesse Sims was that 37. We still don't know who 37 is going to be this year. I'm thinking we're probably not going to find out till maybe after the spring, if they say that, or even closer towards, the next fall. So who fills that void? We have Eli Alford, Alex Gubner, and Lorenzo Brown that are the three defensive tackles that we have that are slated for that. I'm pretty sure that all those guys will probably get playing time, then they'll rotate them in. And so, it's not necessarily one having the starting position, because I know that Eli Alford has that starting position right now based off of the deep depth chart. So, how do you see a certain guy kind of exploding in that position?
I think they're all consistently really good. They're good in their own ways, and they're all a different style of play. Obviously, you have Lorenzo Brown. He's a little bit lighter, but he's a little bit quicker. He's a little bit more finesse. He's make that move to make you miss, type of guy. And then obviously you have Alex Gubner, which is just a tank and a half. He's a big body, and he's extremely strong too. I think I would like to say, besides Jesse, one of the more true nose tackles that we've had in a long, long time. As far as when I'm talking about just naturally built in size and strength and the style of play, so he's a big body and he's tough to block. Definitely. And he has some moves on him too when he wants to pull him out, And then obviously you have Eli Alford, which is kind of the hybrid between the two. He's strong, he's big. He's probably not as big as Alex, but he's just as strong. And he has a little bit more finesse, a little bit more kind of a flexibility. He's able to move a little more, not aggressively, but just different as compared to Alex. Yeah, Alex is a great mover too. He knows how to get off the ball and move very well.
Well, and that kind of in a 3-3-5, that defensive tackle position, and let me know if I'm wrong, is a little bit different when you're having a forefront, because that forefront, I believe, you want that defensive tackle or that nose tackle to kind of plug. Now, not necessarily with a three man, because you're wanting to get some pressure on the quarterback, but you're not wanting that nose tackle just to plug, because you've got holes already there that the linebackers are going to be searching for.
A lot of responsibility, man. A lot of responsibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that's the thing about it. Those guys are up for the challenge, and I think it's one of those things. I think people can argue last year, well, the defensive line didn't get crazy amount of sacks. Well, obviously they provided enough pressure where they weren't able to score, as consistently as maybe teams would have liked. There was multiple times where they're in the red zone, plugged them up. That goes an attribution. That's a shout out to the coaching staff. That's a shout out to the actual players, and that's just a shout out to the grit. There's
bend not break defense.
Bend not break. There's it's so easy in those situations when they're 5 yards down the line and they've ran 10 plus plays already, and you're exhausted, and all you want to do is get off the field. That's where you nut up or shut up.
Exactly.
And those guys were ready to play. And
it shows that grit too, man. Like, how probably devastating, like going back when I played high school ball, it was devastating. You work so hard and somebody does a big run, and then, you're in the red zone and like you said, nut up or shut up. You really have to make sure that you do your job so that they don't score. And the defensive line situation, I think we have a lot of good guys there, a lot of good athletic guys. I think each year it's getting better. And so I just see a lot of these guys. I just see it changing this year. I see some of the stuff that they're doing when they're posting stuff. Some of the body changes as well that you hear and they've reported out with weight and stuff like that. I think the sky is the limit for this group. I really am really excited to see this defense. I'm excited for football, man. We got football today, dude. I'm ready to take my shirt off, body paint, start running around my house, and just my wife would probably kick me out. So, so that defensive tackle position, I think that they're getting better. And all around the offense and the roster is getting deeper, is getting better, more athletic, faster and stronger. It'll be really interesting to see with the new trainer, the athletic trainer, how it changes from this year to 2 years down the line with Dan Ryan to see the difference.
See, and I heard that his coaching style is a lot different than what we previously had with Coach Nicholson. Shout out Coach Nicholson. He's the reason why I was able to kind of get through that last year. He really took a lot of time and effort to really sit down with me, answer any questions I had, give me guidance, kind of break down for me, just nutrition and health in general. The power of mobility work. A lot of people think, well, stretching is going to help me be a better athlete. Yeah, that's a compliment. But what's really going to elevate you to another level is taking the time to do mobility work. So at young athletes out there that are able to kind of catch the show and listen to us, get into mobility work now. Make sure that you're able to move at the highest amount of effectiveness. Taking care of your body in that way is going to prove to yield a lot more results than lifting really, really heavy and also, just stretching. It's a compliment when you use those, but I think mobility work really made a difference for me that last year. And that's shout out to Nicholson. As opposed to the new coach, I don't necessarily know his coaching style, but I do know that he is Olympic lift, really heavy. I don't know to the extent of how much, it differs from Nicholson, simply because obviously it's a different man, it's a different coaching style. So it'll be interesting to see how they play out and how they develop, because I heard that they go heavy and they go hard. That's not to say that Nicholson didn't make us do that, but he was really conscious about being a little bit more effective as far as let's focus on mobility work. Let's focus on, range of motion. Let's focus on movement, transition work, and I just don't know necessarily enough about the new athletic trainer to kind of be able to compare.
Well, and I have read some things that they've put out, and he is Olympic lifter, kind of that's his forte. And so I think this last spring, there is they do a lot of heavy lifting in the spring. And then the summer, I believe, when they're getting ready for the year. But during the year, it said that they go down from their weight and they do not heavy weight. They do more reps and less weight to kind of do that. So I'm hoping that they do a lot of the mobility training, like you said, and kind of the work while they're in, season. Because I think, a lot of the now for those athletic trainers is helping those guys not get hurt. The prevention. And there was something out there that he's helped Idaho State drop and injuries and not necessarily getting stronger. So I really do hope that they're continuing to look into that because injuries are a part of football, but if you can do anything to get that down and prevent that, you got to do that for your players.
It's such a huge part of your lifestyle that I don't think a lot of people take into consideration. Not necessarily, the work that you put on a daily basis, but the training, the type of training that you get presented. Some athletic trainers, unfortunately, around the country just don't have those capabilities, don't have that know-how. They don't have that, that knowledge to really kind of put some of those guys in the best positions. And that's why you do see injuries. Sometimes it's bad training. That's just the reality of what the industry is. You can't have great trainers everywhere you go, And that's just what it is sometimes. And so the fact that we have a guy that's, kind of what you said, was able to kind of lower injuries, but also remain really strong, go really heavy, that's what you're kind of looking for. And I know those guys picked the right thing, the right coach, but it's still a scary thought to necessarily think that potentially, some of those guys could get hurt, because of bad training. And that's how it is across the country with different programs. I don't think that's going to be a case here, but it's just a sad reality of it, that there's a guy that handles 100+ players on a year-to-year basis. And because of proper technique, improper training, it puts them in a position to really kind of hurt themselves. And so, yeah.
That job that's a huge job. Like, because in the off season, you're not probably getting your coaches. That's the guy that you're working with.
Yeah.
That's the guy that you have a relationship. That job is not just making these athletes stronger.
Debatably, Adam, just curious, do you think that's the most important kind of coaching position?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because not necessarily you're there getting them stronger, but man, it's a relationship. You're getting them. Hey, how are you, man? How's the family? How are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
If you're not checking on your players' mental health, you're not doing your job.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is probably the most important position. And I even think it's even more important than the head coach, honestly, because if you look at, the dichotomy of a coaching, you got your head coach. Right below that, I think, is your athletic trainer, where he's getting word from the athletic or from the head coach.
Yeah.
Like, he's getting what to do. He's getting the philosophy. He's getting, what's our mantra for this year? What's our slogan for this year? What are we doing? It's coming from the head coach. And if you're not, checking your players, it's not just, heavy lifting. It's not just working out. I really think the main part of that job is just checking and having those relationships with those players, and that mental health side, making sure they're eating well, making sure they're, got their head on straight. It's a really important job.
Mm-hmm. And that was one of the things that I love about Nicholson. When I was kind of down in the dumps, he always was able to kind of put into perspective, let me know that, hey, this isn't serious enough to be this down for, don't dig yourself a deeper hole. That was one of the things that he kind of told me at a couple different times. And he told a couple other players too. He's like, hey, your hole's already dug. It's an unfortunate situation, but don't dig it any deeper than what it is. It's because of that. I was like, okay, so what can I do? What am I in control of? And he kind of gave me that confidence to say, this is my choice, how I treat my body, how I take care of it, the day-to-day operations as far as what I'm eating. Because, people know my story. I went through a span of time where I was down in the dumps, where I was eating out almost every single day, trying to go to McDonald's, trying to go to Burger King, Taco Bell right by the university, and just stuff my face with it because I was, so tired. It was hard for me to get out of bed. I was stuck in bed, and any chance I had, if I had 45 minutes to come home, I'd come home and try to nap and really kind of pull out every single second before I had to, go back and feel like I was dragging myself like a coat, like a heavy, heavy coat. It was just one of those things. And he was one of those guys that said, hey, man, like, you're in control of it. This is a lot of unfortunate situations, but you're in control of what you want to do. You have a choice right here. And you know what? I'm glad it kind of happened that way because it opened my eyes to the realization of taking care of your body. And exactly. I'm a believer in that it starts inward, outward. What you put in your body is going to really kind of put you in that position to really succeed as an athlete. And so because of that, man, I have nothing but love, admiration, and respect for him. And I wish nothing but the best. He knows he always has, a spot in my home or a beer to come home to, man. So
awesome. Yeah. So, hey, let's go down to the linebacker. That's the position that, we're losing All-American Dante Olson. That's a huge, huge role to fill. I think that we've got a great group of linebackers that are going to be able to fill that position. I think even now, and this is, I think I'll probably get eaten up alive by some Grizz fans, but I think our linebacker position is better than when Dante was here.
You think so?
I think so. Yeah. I think that, we're losing an All-American, but because of that, you're getting those players behind him that more developed. I think the guys that are coming up and they're going to be getting that playing time, they have been able, excuse me, they've been able to see greatness. They've been able to see Dante go from, a player from Oregon to coming here to be going into the draft and playing professionally. I think that they're going to be able to develop. I think they'll be able to get better. So I'm just going to go down the line of what we have. So Marcus Wellnell, Asher Croy, Jace Lewis, Braxton Hill. It might be a little while. There's a lot of players. Levi Janicaro, Cale Edwards, Ryan Terrell, Chase Johansson, Michael Matthews, Tyler Flink, Patrick O'Connell. Then, we've got 2 more coming in this summer, Gino Leonard and Soren Sivrud. I'm going to probably say that wrong. So, going on the two deep depth chart, you've got Jace Lewis as your linebacker, Marcus Wellnell and Patrick O'Connell. Backing them up are Braxton Hill, Michael Matthews, and Levi Janicaro. I just think that from the standpoint of what we had, a year and a half ago, and I could be totally wrong because it's been a year and a half since we've had football. But just the depth at that linebacker position, I think it kind of raises the bar of our linebacking crew where it might be better than when it was a year and a half ago. Now, I might be totally off, but I like to, see that when you're looking at a roster, when you're looking at your player development and saying, oh, well, which year is better? Like, if you have more, I think it's always better. If you have more consistency, more depth, more just development, it's better than having 2 or 3 guys that are all Americans. If you have 6 or 7 guys that are pushing each other, that are developing each other, I think that makes that group better than having 2 all Americans.
100%. You know what? I think you raised a good point. The consistency of the experience, the consistency of just getting adjusted to the program and this lifestyle. A year is always going to be better than now.
Yeah.
A year from now. I mean, thinking about my playing days, I feel like I'm a better athlete now than I was a year ago. Part of that is credit to the weight that I'm losing, how I'm taking care of myself. I'm another year removed from injury, so that helps, and I can only imagine the same thing happens at every other position for every other man. They get another year under the belt, and then what happens? They get a little better. They get a little stronger. They get a little faster, a little bit more aggressive, a little more of that killer attitude, the killer instinct that you want in a player, and I think that those types of things are that develop those players to have that consistent play all throughout, that whole position. It's a stacked position. There's a lot of guys. And that's a lot about it. The 2s can play just as much as the 1s can play, Yep. And I think now that you're kind of mentioning it, I think Pat has a breakout year. I think we saw flashes of greatness from him last year, but I think this is the year where he really stands out. I think everybody's attention is going to be kind of on Jace, but I think Pat's going to have that opportunity to really kind of blow up. And who's to say, who knows? Marcus has been a tank since I've known him. He's been extremely strong, committed, fast. It's really just about what he wants to, kind of get out of this upcoming year. So he has the potential equally, just as Pat, to kind of have that breakout year or start kind of breaking out and letting himself know that, hey, I can play and I can play really good.
Well, and I think, a guy that I think people are not really, looking at is Levi Janicaro, going from a running back to a linebacker position. I think he's gained some weight too, because what they have him listed at is 6 foot 241. I don't think he was that when he was a running back. I think he was in the 220s.
He's solid too. A lot of people 240 at 6 feet. You'll be like, oh, you're a little bit on the husky side. No. The dude is solid.
Yeah,
gracious. Run through it, man.
Yeah, I think that that Levi could have a breakout year too. Just backing up in that role. But you've got some talent, man. Jace Lewis is gonna try to fill that role that Dante had. And this is what I always look at too is, okay, these guys are in a new position. Okay, their leader on the side of that defense for that linebacking crew is not there. Who's gonna step up now? I'm not saying there hasn't been a guy that stepped up because I'm not at practices. I'm not in the film rooms where there's a guy that's stepping up. There's got to be a guy on there that is in that role, because that linebacker position is key. That is the voice of that crew. So I hope that that's true, because if they do have a guy that's stepping up like that, I think this defense could be awesome and kind of stepping up even farther than it did last year or the year and a half ago.
It's debatable in a lot of senses that people say the linebacker is like the quarterback of the defense, as far as making setting up literally everything, making sure everybody's in line, kind of setting up the tempo, establishing that play. So there's a lot of responsibility that comes to playing the linebacker position. Not only do you have to be one of the most well-rounded, athletic, and strong guys, because you can debate there's strong corners and safety, but they're not as strong as some of those linebackers. For the defensive line position, they're strong, but they're maybe not as quick and nifty as some of that linebacker position. So there's that debate that they're really kind of the true leader on the heart and soul of a defensive, just kind of a scheme. And so because of that, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Like you said, I can't really name right now and say there's one guy that I'm like, this guy has stepped up and he's the true leader. But there's a lot of good play, And they may be just a situation that they thrive that way. Maybe they're just hey, we work extremely hard, we lead by example, and that's what we feed off of each other. Maybe that's the type, because I've been part of offensive line units where it's like, hey, it's more actual go out and show it. Be that example, lead by example type of situation. I've been part of other offensive line units where it's really vocal, really communicative, So I've been part of both tiers.
Well, and it'll be interesting to see, like you said, with that linebacker position, is it important? It's the voice of that defense. Like I would say too that it is, but also like just because what the Grizz play, those safeties that we have are an important role as well. That kind of play that position too. That are kind of going back and forth, seeing coverages and stuff like that as well. So
exactly.
And that's where we're going next is safeties. This is a crazy, man. We've got a lot of safeties, a lot. Gavin Robertson, Nash Fouch, Garrett Graves, Jackson Pepe. Is it Pepe or
Pepe?
Pepe, dude. I didn't want to say.
That's funny, dude.
Yeah.
Let's just say, Adam, naming these guys is not your strong suit, dude.
No. I will probably, I'm sorry. You can yell at me on Twitter if you need to. I will take it. David Kopang, Gabe Longan, Rishi Daniels, Ryder Myers, Robbie Hauk, Jay Snyder, Jackson Lee, Max Frade, Jace Kluchich is coming in at the summer. Brady and Patrick Lang are coming in the summer as well. So that's a lot of guys. A lot of guys. So, we've got some guys coming back from last year with Robbie Hauk, with, Gavin Robertson. But they're trying to fill that, I believe, that nickel position Nash Fouch is on the 2 depth chart is saying that that's their guy there, with Garrett Graves backing him up in that nickel position, which if the Grizz, that's probably a really important position since they have 5 guys back there with the cornerbacks and stuff. So it's a busy group. It's a group that has some experience, but it also has some young depth as well. It'll be interesting to see what type of development they do this year, trying to bring up those other guys. Just because, with Garrett Graves going from, man, he's been switched a lot. I think he came in as a quarterback and now he's a safety. I know he's a smart guy and an athletic guy, but that position is hard to play. There's a lot that goes into that position. With that defense, it'll be interesting to see the development of those guys, those young guys behind those guys, so that they can bring up that depth, because they do have some guys that have experience, but it'll be really important this year to get that depth ready just in case there's an injury.
Exactly. But when you think about a position, Adam, every single time and time again, I'm a true believer of this. What do you want? You want depth.
Yep.
You guys have depth.
Yep.
Not only do you have depth, but you have a combination of experience. You have a combination of flashes of brilliance in a lot of ways. So I think they're at the sweet spot of their position group. Some of this, I think they're probably, I would like to say that they're at the prime of the position group that they're going to be in this rotation of recruiting classes. They have some experience. They have some different types of play because Robbie Houck is a 360 of a player than Gavin Robertson. They're really, really different types of plays, but they're both extremely effective in their own way. When you combine that, with Fouch playing the nickel position, when you combine that with Graves kind of backing him up, he's just a freak of an athlete. You saw flashes of greatness on his special team side last year. I think they're really en route to really be a really strong point of the defensive unit.
Yeah,
that's my whole opinion. I hope it plays out like that. But then again, I'm gonna let the listeners know I don't know nothing about nothing. Just because I play football, I don't know anything about anything. I don't know what they're up to. I don't know schemes. I don't know game plans. People think that I'm still working at the facility or something like that. I'm following Bobby Houck around. Even as a player, I don't really know what's going on. I just knew this was my assignment. I had to play, and this is how to read the defense.
Yep.
So I'm a little dummy. So don't ask me for advice. I'm just giving my 2 cents. I hope I'm right with it.
Well, if you have 2 cents, then I probably have like a penny. So, so we'll leave it at that, man. Yeah. Going into like our too deep depth chart. Wow, that's that came out. I don't know if you've been able to look at it, but some of the things that kind of stuck out to me were they put, the punter and the kicker, the Brian Buschini as the punter. Kicker would be Jack Cooper. One of the areas would be the kick returner, being Malik Flowers, but backing him up would be Gabe Sulcer. And also punt return. Gabe Sulcer has got that spot, but behind him is Robbie Houck. That kind of surprised me there. And then just, the defensive end position of Justin Belknap and Jacob McGoran, just that stacked side of the defensive line kind of surprised me. Did you have any thoughts on that, man? Or where do you think about the depth chart that they let out? And is that, me, I don't take really like solace in that depth chart because there's a lot of moving parts and you're not going to want to show your hand right away. But, just to give it the fan to see who's where and who's where, it's nice to see. But I'm not, putting all my money on that.
You know what? It's tough for me to kind of really comment on that really in depthly, just because I think for the first time in the years that I played football, we've had some really strong positions, and a lot of times you can tell a clear distinction between another one. At certain times, the offensive line was considered a weak point. At certain times, it was considered a strong point, at the top tier group, And so I've always been part of teams that was just like, well, this position's good, but this position might be better. I think I'm truly at a state of nostalgia where it's like every position has a opportunity to really blow up and show out, And I think because of that, it's going to prove to win football games. You always hear the term defense wins football games. I don't know necessarily how hard I believe in that philosophy, just because I've been a part of the game. There's so many other moving parts to it, but it is essentially a huge part of the game, And because of that, I think there's a position to really kind of blow up at any position because there's that depth, there's that experience, there's that talent that you want at really every level and every facet. So because of that, I can't really get too much into it simply because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know who's going to blow up,
Well, that's what's great about sports too, is you don't know what's going to happen. You have to go to the game. You have to watch the game. Anything could happen. And I hope just viewers out there that go to the game today, they just take an analytical approach to it and just understand the logistics behind it and really just see position for position how good we could potentially be. I think that'll show a little bit today. I don't think it's a great kind of dust the rust off type of situation, and I think it'll be some good competition because I know Central Washington, just like any other program, they're going to have some players, even if you get a JC or a JUCO, it's still
the same type of situation. There are some dogs that play at the JUCO level that just may not have had the grades, may not have had the opportunity, or just came from a rougher program that made it tough for them to get that opportunity to play at the next level, you know?
Well, and they have some guys that are from the Big Sky Conference on their team.
Yeah.
That started in the Big Sky Conference. So it's not like they're not gonna and you know, Central Washington, the D2 level is pretty legit. They're looked at as one of the top programs. And so I would advise Grizz Nation, you know, if it's not a blowout, if it's a close win, really don't like get down on the team. Like these guys are shaking off a year and a half rust, you know, and I don't think it's going to be like a real game where you're going to be having all your ones play the whole game. I hope not. I would hope not. I would say, hey, let's get some depth. Let's throw some guys in there. So if it's a close win, if it's a loss, you know, which could happen, you know, they don't have film on these guys. A year and a half ago, that's a long time. Things have changed. You know, things have changed since 2 days ago. 2 days ago, their starting running back was playing. Just last night, he's in the transfer portal. So, you know, it can change just like that. So, you know, I hope that, you know, Grizz Nation, you have fun, but have patience. It's spring season. It's not, you know, a real season. And so, yeah, that's my take on it too.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. I'm excited for, man. I really am. It's an opportunity, dude. It's an opportunity for them. It's an opportunity for the state just to kind of, one, get the nostalgia of football coming back, let them know that things are going to go back to normal. Obviously, with this crazy, crazy time, it's going to be a tough year for a lot of people, you know. And so we're turning back to this somewhat normalcy, even though it's a interesting situation with it being in the springtime. Football's back, and because of that, I think people are going to find peace in knowing, hey, things are going to go back to normal out there. And obviously, we're shifting from football to just a live perspective, but I'm hopeful for the end of the year, man. I'm hopeful for how this year's going to play out. And, you know, I'm hopeful for things to kind of come back to normalcy. Maybe some things change for the better, you know. And I hope we continue to be progressive in our efforts, progressive in our approach with this whole situation, you know. And so I'm excited to see how it turns out and how it plays out. And I think it's one of those things you kind of ground yourself in certain things. And I think football is one of those things that people ground themselves in. You know, it's such a tradition. It's such an experience. It's such a big part of what Montana is. And I think because of that, and, you know, I think people hold on to this. So I think this is going to give people somewhat of a little bit of hope to, you know, let people know, hey, things are going to be okay. You know, this what we're going through, what you're going through, whether it be financially, whether it be in your relationship, whether it be personal level, you know, we're going to get out of this. You know, we're going to be able to kind of move past it and continue on. So I'm hopeful for the future, man. I can't wait to see what happens today, just because I think it's going to, you know, kind of root us back to who we are.
Exactly. Hey, one last thing. Predictions, dude. Predictions for this game. What's gonna happen, dude?
It's a win, bro.
It's a win.
Yes, it's a huge win. I think you know what? I'm sorry to say, Central Washington. I think it's going to be somewhat of a you're going to be playing catch up. I think majority of the game. Let's put that the nice way. You know, I think you'll be playing catch up. You know, and so I'm not going to give a specific number, but I'm just going to leave it at that. He's going to be.
Oh, come on now, come on.
Oh gosh, if I'm being real, I'd like to say 50s and 60s to, you know, 20s. Yeah. I think it'll be one of those games.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, you know, probably 35-14, kind of one of those games as well.
No, you're being a little generous. I think you're going to take it and run.
Mercy rule.
It's home. I think they're gonna go out and play some game.
Nice. I can't wait. I know Grizz Nation can't wait. I know that you're going to be going there now. So make sure that if you see Angel out, you get him a high five or you know, an elbow, as they say.
Five, huh?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. But yeah, I can't wait. Spring season is here. This is our last preview. We'll have a lot more stuff for you guys, a lot more things that we're going to be doing. Yeah. So tell your friends. Make sure that if you want to hear us, make sure you get to the podcast platform, wherever you get your podcasts. You subscribe to us, give us a rate, give us a review, hit those 5 stars. We love those 5 stars. If you want to get a hold of us, get us on Twitter, Instagram, at our Facebook page at Fight on Montana. We want to hear from you. Thank you for our comment, Michael Kemper, for commenting and joining us with this show. We really appreciate it. Hopefully we get more and we have that discussion with the fans as well.
Yeah.
But man, it is game day, dude.
Game day, man. Let us know what you guys want to hear.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to let us know some topics, even if it be outside of the realm of football or related to football. Let us know. Reach out to us. I'm a big advocate of mental health, of taking care of yourself. And so that's something that's really important to me. So I want to make sure that this kind of a foundation of what this podcast is about. So you guys let us know if there's something on your mind in any type of sense that you want to talk about, and we'll be sure to kind of discuss it. I'd love to include that.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I'm going to let you go, man. I'm going to let you go stretch out, get your voice ready, do a little voice action. And we will see you soon, listeners. Make sure that you cheer hard, and we'll fight on for another day.
Yeah. Take care, guys.